I was exactly 3 minutes late boarding the Amtrak to Boston, breathing heavily as I dragged my suitcase down the narrow aisle. My son Liam was getting married this weekend, and I had paid for almost all of it. I reached my ticketed window seat 12A. But someone was already sitting there. It was Susan, the mother of Liam's fiancée, Jessica. Susan was comfortably settled, sipping a sparkling water while my son Liam was busy stuffing her heavy, oversized bags into the overhead bin right above my assigned spot. I stood there gripping my luggage handle. Liam turned around looking annoyed. "Mom, you're late. We thought you missed it." "I'm 3 minutes late, Liam, but I made it. And that is my seat." Liam sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Jessica leaned over from the aisle seat across the row. "Nancy, my mom gets motion sickness. Liam thought it would be better if she took the window. You don't mind, right?" Susan didn't even look up from her magazine. She just adjusted her cashmere wrap. "I specifically booked that window seat months ago," I replied quietly. "Where are my bags supposed to go?" Liam pointed toward the back of the car near the sliding doors. "I put your smaller bag back there. You can take seat 34C. It's next to the restrooms, but it's just a 3-hour ride, Mom. Don't make a big deal out of it." I looked at my 28-year-old son. I looked at the fiancé who smiled a tight, triumphant smile. For 2 years, I had compromised. I paid for the venue, the catering, and the florist, swallowing their endless demands. Now I was expected to sit by the toilets while her mother took my paid seat. The conductor walked by. "Doors closing in 1 minute, folks." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply grabbed my handle, turned around, and walked back toward the exit. "Mom, where are you going?" Liam called out, confusion laced in his tone. I stepped onto the platform just as the doors slid shut. Through the thick glass, Liam stared at me, his mouth open. I pulled out my phone, opened our wedding planning chat, and typed, "I'm heading home. Funding for the wedding is officially canceled." The train pulled away, leaving a rush of warm air against my face. I stood on the platform for a moment, letting my racing heartbeat settle. I didn't feel like crying. Honestly, I just felt a profound sense of clarity. My phone started buzzing immediately. Liam. I muted. The device walked to the parking garage and drove back to my house. The house I had lived in for 30 years, the one my late husband and I worked so hard to pay off. When I walked through my front door, the silence of the house welcomed me. I went straight to the kitchen, brewed a pot of black coffee, and opened my laptop. I didn't need a lawyer to untangle this mess. I just needed my bank login and the vendor contracts. Everything was in my name, paid with my credit cards. I logged into the catering portal first. The final headcount was due tomorrow, but the deposit was fully refundable up to 48 hours before the event. I clicked Cancel Event and watched the $15,000 refund process begin. Next, I emailed the florist. "Please cancel the order for the George Miller wedding. I understand I lose the initial 10% deposit, but do not charge the remaining balance to my card." Then I called the venue. The coordinator answered on the second ring. "Nancy, we're so excited for Saturday." "Cancel the booking," I instructed smoothly. "I am pulling my financial support. Do not allow anyone to access the hall under my name." My phone screen lit up again. 52 missed text messages. Jessica had joined in, sending frantic paragraphs about how I was ruining her dream day over a stupid train seat. I ignored them. I opened my banking app and navigated to the authorized users section of my primary credit card. Liam had a card for emergencies, which had somehow evolved into paying for his weekly groceries and gas. I hit the toggle switch. Card deactivated. 10 minutes later, Liam called again. I finally answered. "Mom, what is wrong with you? My card just declined at the rental car counter in Boston." He shouted, panics, completely erasing his earlier arrogance. "They won't give us the car. You gave away my seat." Liam, I answered. You can figure out your own ride. You can't be serious. Liam's voice echoed sharply through the phone speaker. I could hear the bustling noise of South Station in the background. You stranded us here. Susan is exhausted. Susan has a window seat to rest in, I pointed out, taking a sip of my coffee. And she can pay for the rental car. Jessica snatched the phone from him. Nancy, you are being incredibly petty. We are family. You can't just cancel our rehearsal dinner because you didn't get your way. You need to call the restaurant and fix this right now. I am not being petty, Jessica. I am establishing a boundary. I replied evenly. I paid for this weekend, yet I was treated like an unwanted guest in my own son's life. The wedding funding is gone. I hung up before she could formulate another demand. I didn't block them. I wanted a record of their messages, but I turned on the Do Not Disturb feature for their contacts. My house felt incredibly peaceful. I walked into the guest room, which had slowly morphed into Liam's personal storage unit. Boxes of his old college gear, seasonal clothes, and even Jessica's spare wedding decorations were piled in the corner. I had allowed them to take over my space because it seemed easier than arguing. I started pulling the boxes into the hallway. Just then, a key rattled in the front door lock. I paused, wiping dust from my hands. My daughter Maya walked in, dragging a duffel bag behind her. She looked at me, then at the boxes, and let out a long sigh. I saw the messages in the family group chat. Jessica is having a complete meltdown online. What happened? I stepped off the train. I answered simply. Maya didn't yell. She didn't panic. She just dropped her bag and gave me a tight hug. Good. I was wondering when you were finally going to snap. They've been walking all over you for months. I haven't snapped, I corrected, pulling away and handing her a roll of packing tape. I'm just awake, and we have a lot of packing to do. Maya grinned. Are we finally kicking his junk to the curb? To the garage, I clarified. And tomorrow we change the locks. Maya and I spent the rest of the afternoon clearing out the guest room. We hauled heavy boxes of Liam's old textbooks, winter coats, and Jessica's oversized wedding signs down to the garage. With every box I moved, my chest felt a little lighter. I realized how much physical and emotional space I had been sacrificing just to keep the peace. Look at this, Maya muttered, holding up a receipt she found in one of the boxes. This is for Jessica's bridal shower favors. $200. Didn't she tell you Susan paid for these? I glanced at the paper. Yes. She asked me to reimburse her because Susan supposedly forgot her wallet that day. Maya rolled her eyes, tossing the receipt into the trash bag. They've been using you as an ATM, Mom. Susan hasn't paid a dime for this wedding, has she? Not a single penny, I confirmed. Later that evening, I sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through the joint savings account Liam and I had shared since he was a teenager. It was supposed to be a fund for his future house down payment. Over the past year, however, I noticed the balance slowly dwindling. Small withdrawals transferred directly to Jessica's checking account. I didn't waste time being angry. I just clicked the transfer button. I moved my exact contribution, which accounted for 90% of the balance, into a private account under solely my name. He could keep the remaining few $100s he actually earned. My phone lit up with a text from Liam. Mom, please. Susan is crying in the hotel lobby. The venue just emailed us saying our booking is canceled. We need that venue deposit back so we can pay them directly. Stop this tantrum. I didn't reply. I just forwarded the email from the venue showing the cancellation policy. The deposit was forfeited and the remaining balance was refunded to my card. There was no money for them to use. Maya walked in with 2 glasses of red wine. They're on their way back, aren't they? The train leaves Boston in an hour. I checked my watch. They'll be here by midnight. Good thing I called the locksmith an hour ago. Maya smiled, clinking her glass against mine. The new deadbolts get installed at 8 p.m. It was just past midnight when the headlights swept across my living room curtains. I sat in my favorite armchair, a book resting on my lap, fully awake. Maya was asleep upstairs in the freshly cleared guest room. Footsteps stomped up the porch stairs. A key scraped into the deadbolt, followed by aggressive jiggling. Oh, what the hell? It's not turning. Liam's muffled voice came through the thick oak door, more frantic rattling. Then a heavy knock. Mom, open the door. I set my book down, walked into the foyer, and flipped on the porch light. I opened the door, but kept the heavy brass chain firmly secured. Liam stood there red-faced and exhausted, dragging the same luggage I had seen on the train. Jessica was right behind him, looking furious, with Susan hovering in the background, holding her neck. "Why did you change the locks?" Liam demanded, grabbing the door frame. "Because this is my house, and you no longer live here," I answered calmly. Jessica pushed past Liam, her eyes narrowing. "Nancy, you have ruined everything. The venue gave our spot to another couple. We have family flying in on Thursday. You can't just throw a fit over a train seat and destroy our wedding. It wasn't just a seat, Jessica. It was respect." I looked directly into her eyes. "I find this wedding. I compromised on the guest list, the menu, and the flowers. And in return, you and my son decided my comfort mattered less than your mother's. You showed me exactly where I stand in your lives." "So, what, we're supposed to be homeless tonight?" Liam yelled, throwing his hands up. "All our stuff is in your guest room. Your things are neatly packed in the garage. The side door is unlocked," I instructed. "You can take them right now." "We have nowhere to go," Jessica shrieked. "We'll just have to go stay at my mom's place." Susan suddenly looked alarmed. "Oh, well, my apartment is very small, Jessica, and my reading club is hosting tomorrow." I watched the panic wash over Jessica's face as she realized her own mother wasn't willing to offer a free ride either. "Good night, Liam," I said gently but firmly, shutting the door and sliding the heavy bottom bolt into place. The next morning, the sun streamed through the kitchen windows. I was enjoying my oatmeal when Maya came downstairs, yawning. "Did they take their stuff from the garage?" she asked, pouring a cup of coffee. "Most of it," I nodded toward the window. "They made quite a bit of noise around 1 in the morning. Just as Maya sat down, a silver sedan pulled hastily into my driveway. Susan stepped out, marching up the front steps with a determined scowl. I opened the door before she could knock. "Nancy, we need to talk." Susan pushed past me into the foyer, not waiting for an invitation. "The kids are a mess. Jessica hasn't stopped crying. You need to call the vendors and write a check to fix this. It's embarrassing." I didn't offer her a seat. I just walked over to the console table, picked up a neat stack of printed invoices, and handed them to her. Susan frowned, looking at the papers. "What is this?" "Those are the final bills for the florist, the caterer, and the photographer," I explained smoothly. "Since you are the mother of the bride, tradition dictates that your family covers the wedding costs. I've already paid the non-refundable deposits. You just need to cover the remaining $25,000 to get everything back on track." Susan's face lost all its color. She shoved the papers back at me. "I don't have that kind of money. I'm on a fixed income." "So am I, Susan," I replied. "But somehow I managed to fund this entire circus while you couldn't even manage to sit in your own assigned seat on a train." Susan stammered, clutching her designer purse tightly against her chest. Liam promised. Liam said your family was taking care of it. Liam made a promise with my wallet. That wallet is now closed." I opened the front door wider, silently asking her to leave. She stared at me, realizing I wasn't going to budge or shout. I was completely unbothered. She turned on her heel and practically jogged back to her car. Maya leaned against the kitchen doorway, holding back a laugh. Well, that was efficient. Very, I agreed, shutting the door. Now I just need to make one quick trip to the bank. Monday morning, I drove to the local bank branch. I sat across from the branch manager, handing over my ID. I need to permanently remove my name from the joint savings account I hold with my son, Liam George. I requested. The manager clicked her mouse a few times. Certainly, Mrs. George. I see you transferred the bulk of the funds out on Friday. There's a remaining balance of $412. Would you like to leave that for him? Yes, leave his portion. Just take my name off the account entirely. I confirmed. By noon, the financial separation was complete. No lawyers, no complicated legal paperwork. Just a few signatures and common sense. I drove to the community center where I volunteered twice a week organizing the local food pantry. I liked the quiet rhythm of sorting cans and checking expiration dates. Around 2 o'clock, the double doors of the center swung open. Liam marched in his face, flushed with anger. Several of the other volunteers looked up in surprise. "Mom, you emptied the savings account," he yelled, striding down the aisle toward me. "I went to use that money to book a cheaper venue and it's gone." I placed a can of soup on the shelf, wiped my hands on my apron, and turned to face him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't want a scene. "I didn't empty it, Liam. I took out my money. The money I earned," I corrected him. "Your $412 is still there. That was for our future. You gave that to me." I reached into my tote bag, pulled out a folded spreadsheet, and handed it to him. "This is a list of every expense I've covered for you since you graduated. Car insurance, phone bills, wedding deposits, groceries. It totals over $40,000. Liam stared at the paper, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "You are a grown man." I continued, keeping my tone perfectly even. "You want to play house. You pay for the house. You want to disrespect your mother to impress your future mother-in-law? You deal with the consequences. Now please leave. I have work to do." Liam crumpled the paper in his fist. He looked around, realizing the other volunteers were watching him with deep disapproval. He turned and stormed out. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Maya had sent a screenshot. Jessica had taken the battle to Facebook. I sat in my car and examined the screenshot Maya had just sent me. Jessica had taken the battle to Facebook. She posted a black and white photo of her and Liam looking miserable, heartbroken. A controlling family member decided to ruin our special day just to prove a point. We are trying to pick up the pieces. I didn't reply to the post or defend myself in the comments. Engaging in a public mudslinging match was a waste of time. Instead, I drove straight to the department store, returned the expensive crystal vases and the espresso machine I had bought for Jessica's bridal shower, and watched $800 go right back onto my credit card. On my way home, my sister-in-law Carol called. "Nancy, what is going on? Did you really cancel the venue?" "I did," I answered, keeping my eyes on the road. "But why? He's your only son." "Because Liam gave my ticketed window seat to Jessica's mother, put her bags in my spot, and told me to sit by the bathrooms. When I asked for my seat, they called me petty. So I stepped off the train and stopped paying for the ride." Carol went dead silent. "He did what? He treated me like a second-class citizen," I said. "Oh, Nancy." Carol sighed, the judgment gone. "You did the right thing. I'll tell the rest of the family. We aren't sending gifts to people who act like that." By that evening, extended family members began retracting their RSVPs. Jessica quietly deleted her post. I sat on my back patio, enjoying the silence until Liam walked around the side of the house, looking completely defeated. Liam stopped at the edge of the patio. He looked at the empty chair next to me, silently asking for permission. I nodded, and he sank into the cushions, burying his face in his hands. "Jessica kicked me out," he mumbled. "Susan told her I was a loser because I didn't have any money saved up. I need to move back home, Mom, just until I get on my feet. I took a slow sip of my iced tea and looked at my son. No. Liam blinked, stunned. No, Mom. I have nowhere else to go. I am not abandoning you, Liam, but I am letting you stand on your own 2 feet. I kept my voice steady. You allowed those women to disrespect me. You treated me as a convenient checkbook. I will not be your safety net while you learn how to be an adult. I was just trying to keep the peace with Susan, he pleaded. You kept their peace by sacrificing mine. That's not how respect works. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, and slid it across the glass table. What's this? He asked. A list of affordable studio apartments in the next town over, I said. You have a steady income. You can afford these. He looked at the list, his shoulders sagging. The realization hit him hard. There were no more bailouts. He folded the paper and put it away. Are you even going to come to the wedding if we just go to the courthouse? I don't know, Liam, I answered. That depends on who is standing next to you. 3 months later, the autumn leaves were turning brilliant shades of red, and my garage was finally mine again. Without Liam's boxes cluttering the walls, I had space to set up my gardening station. Liam and Jessica didn't break up, but without my financial backing, they couldn't afford the grand lifestyle Susan demanded. They moved into one of the small apartments I had listed. They got married on a chilly Tuesday morning at the county courthouse. I attended standing quietly in the back in a simple navy dress. Susan was there too, complaining loudly about the lack of a reception. I completely ignored her. When the brief ceremony ended, I walked up to Liam and Jessica and handed them a plain white envelope containing a modest grocery store gift card. Congratulations, I said politely. Jessica offered a tight, forced smile. Liam looked at me, a mix of regret and understanding in his eyes. Thanks for coming, Mom. Take care of yourselves, I replied, turning away before the photos even started. I didn't stay for lunch. I drove home, parked in my clean garage, and walked into the kitchen where Maya was baking cookies. The house smelled like cinnamon and peace. How was it? Maya asked, handing me a glass of wine. Short, I smiled, taking a sip. And very quiet. I sat at the island feeling a profound sense of relief. I didn't need a complicated revenge plot to get my life back. I just needed to realize my own worth. When they tried to push me into a corner, I simply stopped playing their game. The ride was finally over, and I was exactly where I wanted to be.